Welcome to the Education Podcast, where it's all about helping people and organizations unleash their greatness. The Education Podcast features lively discussions.
When they share it, you see that they're beginning to feel empowered.
My heart, it's full of pride for me to be at Tamaiti Samoa.
You don't necessarily need a degree these days. There's so many pathways to success.
Welcome to the Education Podcast. Welcome to this Education Podcast, where we help you level up in both your personal and professional life. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that's all about turning passion into purpose and business. If you ever wondered how to take something that you love and turn it into a thriving brand, you're in the right place. We're going to explore the challenges of starting a business, staying true to your values, and how embracing creativity can lead to long-term success. Whether you're looking for business inspiration or ways to bring more passion into your life, this episode has something for you. Today, we are joined by Danika Cooper, founder of Danika Cooper Jewellery. She turned her love for jewellery into a successful, inclusive brand inspired by her Polynesian roots. Stay tuned as we dive into her journey, the lessons that she's learned, and how you can apply her insights into your own life. Welcome to the show, Danika. How are you? And say hello to our listeners.
Kia ora Pasi, kia ora everyone. Thank you for having me on today. I feel very blessed and humbled to be here and joined by your listeners as well. And I appreciate you taking the time and having me on. I feel in a way a little out of place because, you know, we're small business owners and being in a space like this, it feels amazing because a few years ago I was working for someone else and I hadn't developed a business. And wasn't my own business owner. So to be able to be on a podcast like this is truly a dream for me. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're doing some amazing stuff. And, you know, our listeners are excited and are looking forward to learning more about your story and your journey and how you got to where you are today. So I guess before we get into it, share something interesting about yourself that people don't normally know about you.
Something interesting about myself. And perhaps you don't know either, Pussy, but actually my blood roots are not Pacifica. I'm born and bred Kiwi girl, and I spent quite a bit of time up in the Cook Islands, and that's where my love for all things Polynesian and Pacifica came in. And then I ended up working for Cook Islands Tourism. So that's kind of a little bit of an interesting thing because people tend to just assume, they assume, oh, your roots must be through Pacifica roots. And so I didn't want to allude to that in your questions you had sent to me, Bussy. Because I wanted that to be something that I kind of got to speak to as well in this space with you.
Oh, that is interesting, actually. So, but a lot of your work and your jewellery is inspired by Pacifica roots and I guess the vibes there. So let's start there. Let's start with that story. Let's start with, how Danika got to where she is today with her jewellery business and this inspiration, this Pacifica vibe.
Absolutely. So like I said, I spent a lot of time in the Cook Islands. I worked as their sales ambassador. So I was taking tourism travel agents from New Zealand and Australia up and showing them the Cook Islands. I fell in love with black pearls. And I'm not sure if you know, but my partner is Samoan. So got that Pacifica heritage side there. And while I was up in the Cook Islands, when I was seeing the Tahitian black pearls, I thought, they're all at tourist prices. I couldn't afford them on my salary. And I knew that so many of our Pacifica people couldn't afford the prices that is often put on tourist kind of pricing when you're visiting places. I wanted to make that affordable. I wanted to make it size inclusive as well because my partner and myself, we both go into a jewelry store and not often you can find something in larger sizes. And that's where it would end up costing you an arm and a leg. And I just thought that's so unfair for our people. We need to make things inclusive and affordable. These are our treasures of the Pacific. And everyone deserves to have a part of that. So that's where we came in and we decided that we would start with smaller things. So we started with beaded bracelets and we imported beads. We put a few Tahitian pearls on there. And we worked with slightly lower graded pearls. It was just for friends and family to begin with, and that was on my social media page, my Danika Cooper Facebook page. And we got inquiries from there. So that's why the name went through Danika Cooper Jewellery, because it started from my personal Facebook page. We started getting inquiries from friends of friends and people we hadn't heard of before. I said, oh, do you know this person? And Tamor would say to me, no, they're not my family, they're not my friends. And it grew from there. So it all started off very small while we were working our 9 to 5. And it was actually when COVID hit and I had my first son that it really pushed me into the business, and it made me really look at what I was going to be able to do to help support our family, what I could do. No, there was no longer a tourism industry. No one was traveling, so I couldn't stay in that space. I mean, I wanted to be able to do something from home that would allow us to be able to be around for our kids. I wanted to watch them growing up, and I remember when I was younger, both my parents were self-employed. They both had their own small businesses, and it allowed them to be around after schools for pickups, drop off to school, and school holidays. And I really wanted that as a family as well. So that's kind of where it all started. It's kind of all the right turns and paths leading together that's led us to where we are now. We have a workshop that we've built, which is still home-based. So we built it in our garden, which is fantastic. And it's allowing us to be able to create Polynesian-inspired jewellery as well as still work with our Tahitian black pearls.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's awesome. And what is it like working in a business with your husband? So you both this together. And by the way, I love the name, Danika Cooper Jewellery. It just has a bit of a nice sound to it. But obviously, behind Danika Cooper Jewellery is a husband and a wife. So can you tell us what it's like working together in the business?
It's strengthened our relationship because we've had to trust each other in spaces where we would not necessarily be going, okay, well, this is your job and this is my job. It's allowed us to find a space where we have roles where we do well in and where the other one often complements. And it's allowed us to also grow into those spaces where we say, there's this that's going to happen. Would you like to do this, or would I like to do this? Or is it something that we outsource to someone else because neither of us enjoy it or we don't have the time and energy for it? And that's something that I think it's helped us grow in our relationship as well. So personally, we're now able to work in the same kind of manner within the household, with the family and the kids as well. I've got 2 boys now. And it's allowed us to take that from our business and implement it in our family. So it's been good, yeah. But there has been a few rifts where we've gone, I don't see eye to eye on that idea, or but that's also allowed us to communicate better and problem solve. So there's ups and downs, but more ups than there are downs. So that, yeah, it's good.
Nice. Yeah, and that's normal, right? Whether it's family or non-family, you're not always going to be on the same page, see eye to eye, but it's what do you do when moments like that do arise? I guess any tips around that? I mean, whether it's family or not family, you come across something, you don't see eye to eye, you disagree on something. How do you move forward, make a decision that everyone's committed to? Any advice around that?
I think often it's a reminder that the end goal is what you're both after. And these small steps along the way are just small steps, and that's what it is. And then to be able to come to the table with the pros and cons and think of it in a non-emotional or personal matter, to be able to come to it and be able to say, well, that makes sense, those numbers are right. You do have a gut feeling on this and that works and it's worked before. And then you've got to trust each other. And I think that's the case, not just with working with a partner or a husband or a wife, it's also working with other colleagues in a space. If you can trust them and you know that you can communicate the points and you're respectful both of those various views, then I think it's going to work out really well. And it tends to. That's where you see workers working really well together when they do have that trust, understanding and respect for each other.
I love that. And I love that saying that it reminds me of, that it's not about who's right, it's about what's right. And so it's coming back, trying to remove the emotions. What are we trying to achieve here? What's the goal? What's the best way to do it? And, keeping it level-headed that way. I love that. So your business requires a lot of creativity. You're designing jewelry that's, the idea is for it to be aesthetically pleasing, but there's also a story behind why the design is what it is, right? So take us through the creative process and your thoughts around creating this jewelry. What goes into it, both mentally and physically?
It is. It's a process, but it's something that goes on 24/7 or whenever we're awake, and it doesn't stop. And I think anyone in a small business is probably like that as well. You get these brainwaves and you get these ideas, and you've got to take down notes, or you've got to scribble down sketches and drawings. And we have loads of them all over the place, little bits of paper, notes, ideas, and we put them all together. At the end of the week, we come together and we say, are there some ideas in this that we can create a piece out of? Or are there some ideas from here, here, and here that would work well as a collection? And we both do it. And I'm the drawer, so I tend to be able to take communication, or Timur will explain to me what he likes. And then I'll sketch and I'll say, is this what you mean? And he goes, yes, yeah, that's what I want. Or no, I want that changed to that. But with the designs, we've actually spent a lot of time learning, particularly about Pacifica designs. It's something that I've really loved, because I did do art through high school, right up to university level. And the arts have really been something, and Pacifica art, something that I've always been very interested in. And where it comes through in the patterns, the tatau patterns particularly, is something that we have spent a lot of time educating ourselves about the meaning, the history, and the importance and values of using those in respectful and the rightful ways that they're intended to. So we have really focused on that and taken the time to educate ourselves. And then when it goes into the other side of things, where is it structurally going to work? Is it something that we can create through sand casting, or is it something that we do CAD design and have it cast? It's all of those things about educating around that as well, and how those processes work to create the end piece. A lot of people see, on your website, and they're like, oh, it's just, it's a pretty piece, but it actually does have all these steps and process, and they don't work out. You try something and you go, okay, well, that didn't quite work. What went wrong? What did I need to change to make that work and be a viable piece in the future? So, yeah, there are lots of steps, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is a process, and talking about it makes me realize how much of a process it really is. And to communicate that, I think, something we need to do more on our social media.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. I mean, now that you break it down that way, there is a huge journey that happens before the design ends up on the shelf or online on the website, right? So there's a lot of hard work and thought that goes into it. And I guess when people hear that, I guess they begin to appreciate it a little bit more now. Any thoughts around unleashing your creative genius? Like anybody out there who are thinking like, man, I feel stuck. I'm trapped in my thoughts. I can't do things differently. Like, I want to do things differently. What are some basic principles or advice that you can give around people to be a little bit more creative?
I think it's just like anything. When you're stuck in your thoughts and you're stuck in your ideas, is where do you see yourself being? Where would your dream be, or your goal, job or space, or whatever you're creating? What would that dream look like to you in, say, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? And then you've got to create the steps along the way. It might be that you go to night classes and you start doing those pottery classes or that oil painting class. It might be that you go to what we did, and we went to jewellery classes in the evenings. We went to metalsmithing classes in Kingsland after work. And we did that for about 1.5 years before we really got into the swing of doing jewellery. I mean, it's just testing those waters to see, is that what you want to do? Is that the creative? Is that where you want to unleash your creativity, or is it something else? Is it you wanting to do sculptural work, or is it, so there's so many different ways you can do it, and it depends on the individual. But I would say the first step is looking at where you would like to be, where you see yourself in the ideal situation, and then work towards that. Anything is achievable if you really put your mind to it. You've just got to take the little steps along the way. You can't expect to be the fastest runner in a year. You've got to be able to train and lead yourself up to that and make the right choices along the way to get to your end goal.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. Creativity doesn't happen on its own. It's not something that happens by accident or a fluke. It's an intentional process. So I like what you said there with your husband. You guys do classes. You immerse yourself in things by doing things. And then that is what helps give the aha moment later on once the dots connect, once you've give yourself the moment to kind of just do something else, and then eventually the idea will just immerse, will come out, right? But that requires a lot of action and homework and a lot of immersion at the beginning. So I love that. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand that creativity is not something that happens by accident, it's intentional. So, talk to us about passion. I know you've spoken about this. You traveled to the islands. You found this problem. And, you also got your work experience there with the traveling. That's also helped with the stars in line. You found the opportunity. Now here you are. But tell us about this passion for jewelry. Like, and while you're sharing that, what's your advice around people discovering their passion?
My passion for jewellery really stems from being a very young child, and visiting. My mum is from Dunedin, and visiting my grandparents down in Dunedin. And I'll always remember my grandmother had this trunk, this chest at the end of her bed that she would open up, and she would pull things out that she'd got along on her travels. And it would be, it might be little pottery things, it might be, a scarf that was bought here, and this was collected here, and all little things. And she used to have this small box, and within the small box had pieces of jewellery that she'd collected through when she was traveling through Hong Kong and through Asia. And it had things like jade stones and gold chains and other little bits and pieces and rings and things. And I used to love trying them on. And I remember I used to do it with my mum's jewellery box. I'm sure any small girl who has access to their mum's jewellery will try on earrings, even if they don't have their ears pierced. It's like the hoops sitting in the ear, or the rings on the fingers, and they're loose as, and mum's probably going, oh my gosh, you're going to lose them. And all mums do. I do it. Even my boys are like that. They want to try everything on, necklaces on. But that was where my passion really started, through my grandmother's travel box and through my mum's jewellery box. As I got older, I was allowed to, pick out one piece that I could wear. And she always had a silver ring that I would always put on because it fitted her little pinky, and it fitted my thumb when I was little. So it's memories like that I have that really harnessed me wanting to get into jewellery. I never saw it as a career path. Like my parents said to me, you're going to university after school. What do you want to do? And I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to go to university. And the arts was something I was very, very interested in. And so I applied through arts, and I actually changed and I went into tourism. And I ended up doing Bachelor of International Hospitality Management, and then into postgrad into tourism. But that didn't give me the creative side of things, and I didn't feel like I was fulfilled in that way. And that's when I came home with some loose pearls from the Cook Islands, from my travels, I wanted to be able to create something with them. And so that's when we started doing the night classes. So the passion just was little steps along the way. It was a bit like the unleashing the creativity as well. It was little steps along the way that led us to where we are now. And I look back at it, and I'm really fond. And I think that my grandmother and my mum is very proud, but my uncle as well, who had wanted me to get into looking into gemstones and jewellery making. I think he would be looking down now on me, very proud of what we've achieved. And it's just a shame that some of these people are not around anymore to be able to witness where we've got with the business. But it makes my heart really full to know that I've kind of, like, they led me down that track as well. They kind of had their support in getting us to where I am and unleashing that. In terms of advice for people wanting to find their passion, it's about finding what gives you energy, what makes you happy, what makes your heart feel full, and what doesn't drain your energy. So it might be that you're really good with your hands and you feel like you get a lot out of creating. It might be baking and sharing that love of creating food and sharing it with people, and you get a lot back from that. It's very rewarding. And I think that's a key point, is what is rewarding for you and what can you do that gives you energy. that, that's your passion. That's what fulfills you. If you can do that and create a business out of it, that's a bonus. And I feel like so many people are just in jobs or in roles where they're not able to do what gives them energy. And you see people, they're not happy out there. They're struggling. And it's like you're struggling in life just generally because the economy is the way it is. But also you're struggling in your role because you're not fulfilling yourself, whether that's emotionally, spiritually, creatively. You've got to be able to tick those boxes.
I love that. I love that around passion.
Sorry, that was such a spiel.
No, that was good. I mean, it reminded me of, I've seen a few social media videos or TikToks and Reels. And it's more passion, more energy, more passion, more energy. I don't know if you, but I love that because it's a nice, I love how you connected the dots there. How do you know what is something that you're passionate about? If it's a true passion, it's something that gives you energy. I love that because you can like a lot of things, but what is your real passion? And I like that analogy around ice cream. So you try all the different flavored ice creams until you find the one that you like the most. That's how you can find your passion. So just trying different things, and eventually you'll find something that gives you the energy or that passion. I love it. Now, look, you're in a space, a wonderful space where your passion aligns with a purpose and a business. You're able to make money living out your passion, doing your passion for your business. What are your thoughts and advice for our listeners out there who might be like, look, I've discovered my passion, but how do I make money with it? How do I turn it into a business or doing something meaningful? Any advice around that?
I think the first step is finding a mentor, somebody who is in the business area or space, and it might be within the same industry, it may not be, but somebody who is like-minded like you, somebody you really click with, and who can lead you and you can bounce ideas off. We found some really, really good mentors. This is not a plug, but Mana, they're a Māori Pacific accounting firm who also do business solutions and mentoring. And we've been with them for 5 years now, and they are just absolutely fantastic in working with us. I mean, I'm not saying that every mentor is for everyone, but for us, we've just found somebody who's really been able to answer any questions we've had about the business, about the different steps along the way and what worked for them. And they were able to share their insight on that as well. The other thing I would say is reach out to friends and family. I know mentoring sometimes is not free. So reach out to friends and family. People love sharing their experience with others. And if it can help their loved ones, they're more than willing to. And I think people don't ask for help enough. It takes a village. There has been so many times where I've gone to my mum and been like, I don't understand this accounting, or I don't understand how this works. Can you help me? And she goes, oh yeah, I remember when I first started our business, this is what we did. And it's not necessarily what will work for our business now, but I got an insight into it, and it gave me the resources to be able to then Google search and find out more about certain things. So I think that would be the thing that I would say is the next step. Also, you have to look at, is it something, you've got a passion, is it something that you want to do 9 to 5 every day? Some people have passions that are, I love baking for my family, and that's what gives me, it gives me energy, but they don't want to go into a commercial kitchen and they don't want to be cooking the same cake 5 days a week. So you've got to look at that as well. And is it a viable space that you're going to go into and to create a business? Are you in the right space? It might be giving you energy right here and where you are located, but if there's no need for it out there in the world, then unfortunately it's not going to be a viable livelihood for you now. It is about problem solving. And I think that's where that also comes in, is that you create your business, but you also have to learn to problem solve, and it might lead you away from your initial passion as such. It's a difficult one, but I think that the first step is to reach out and ask for help from people around you. Would they purchase the product that you're going to create or the service that you're going to provide? Do they think it's a great idea? Sometimes your hardest critics are the people closest to you. So take it with a grain of salt and make sure that you do ask plenty of people. But yes, they can also be the ones who support you along your journey.
I love that. That's so good. And you're right around passion. Like, passion doesn't necessarily always have to be a business making thing. As long as you're doing something that you're passionate about in your week, in your day, that gives you energy. If it's baking, just make time for baking so that you do have enough energy in your life, happiness, right? So,
100%.
yeah, I love that. And look, you've been so generous and wonderful and just sharing your story and experience. I know for sure our listeners are going to take a lot from this. And, before we wrap up the podcast, what are your advice or best advice for those who are thinking about starting a business?
It's never too late. And in fact, I was thinking about this at the beginning when you asked me. I wanted to mention, don't think about it, okay, I'm getting too old, or, I'm 50 and I haven't really started yet. Some of the greatest people in the world in business and business spaces didn't start until their kids had moved out. They didn't start until they got fired from that job. It's never too late, and you're never too old to be able to learn new skills, to be able to start a business. Age is just a number. It's your mind frame. And I think we are bombarded by, there's this 19-year-old who's a multimillionaire and she's got this amazing business. And yes, that's amazingly impressive, because when I was 19, that was not what I was thinking or doing. But also we need to realize that that's not the norm. And also that at the other end of the spectrum, that people who are 60, 65, 70 may be just starting out to be able to create a business out of their passion, because they've been working all these years focusing on providing for their family. The kids have grown up, they've moved out. Now they're able to really focus and hone in on their own passions. And I just think that people need to realize that that age that you are is just that. And it should never stop you from being able to do what is your passion.
I love that. Some great final advice there from Danika, founder of Danika Cooper Jewellery. And before we say goodbye to you, how can people get in touch with you?
Social media is probably the best point of contact. We have our Facebook and Instagram page, so danikacooperjewellery.com, as well as our website. I'm more than happy to talk anyone through if they've got any passions and they're wanting some advice, or how to go into even the jewellery industry. I'm more than happy to share advice around how we started. If you've got any questions and you've already started a small business, just reach out. That's what we're here for, and it's really been truly a pleasure to be on today. So thank you so much for having us. And yeah, we hope to be able to work with some of you guys in creating pieces of jewellery for you as well.
I love it. Thank you. And that's very generous of you. So if you're interested in wanting to get in touch with Danika, she's more than welcome to chat with you. So again, thank you so much for your time, sharing your story, sharing your business, your passion. Love what you're doing in that space. Very creative. Keep up the great work. All the best. And thank you so much for joining us.
Me takimasa. Thank you.